Hey guys, welcome back to the MHP Show podcast. I'm your host, Derek Vickers. We have another guest coming on the show today, and everyone knows that on the MHP Show, we talk about anything and everything that has to do with mobile home parks, mobile home park investing, operations, crazy stories that happen. We always have fantastic, crazy stories on this show. And before we get started, I just wanted to make a plug for our go.parkinvestingpro.com. So if you go to that website, you can see our free webinar that I did a couple of months ago. Basically goes over the basics of investing in mobile home parks and buying your first deal. Because before I started, I didn't really know what I was doing in the beginning, and had I actually had some of this data that I was giving out in this webinar, I would have been able to take action a lot faster. So go check that out at go.parkinvestingpro.com. So now I want to introduce our guest to us today. We have George. How do I want to say your last name properly?
Wohar.
Wohar. That's what I was going to do. So we have George Wohar with us. And look, I'm a country boy from the South, and so my pronunciation is a little jacked up sometimes, but I was going to say that one right. So welcome to the show, George.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us, give us a little quick bio of you. And before you get into what you do now, I always like asking people kind of what was your first entrepreneurial journey? And maybe this is your first one, but I'd love to hear that and then kind of circle into what you're doing now.
Love it. Well, as an entrepreneur journey, I started probably like 10 years old, raking leaves, doing housework, all that good stuff. And that went out throughout my entire middle school, beginning of high school. Like that was what I was doing. So I knew I always had the entrepreneur in my blood. I went to college for 2 years, dropped out after my sophomore year. I started an auto detailing business. Why I started that, I have no idea. It was just sounded like a good idea at the time. I didn't like cars at all. I didn't care about them whatsoever. That stopped pretty quick as I then made a transition to personal training. And I was doing personal training in person. Then I transferred it to out of the gym, and then I transferred it to online training. I did that until about 2015 or 2014-ish. And then I was doing a lot of I had online programs with mindset and different things of that sort. And while I was doing that, I also started getting into mobile home flipping in 2017, and I've been doing that since.
Wow. So the dropped out of college, because I didn't finish college either. And it's so funny. Like, I think the last, 5 people I've had on here like, yeah, I didn't finish college. So was that? So let me ask this question in maybe a different way. So what was the reason of you dropping out of college? You just it wasn't suiting you anymore? Were you like me? You were partying too much?
My freshman year of college, I partied way too much, joined a frat. That's all I was doing. Sophomore year, lived in a frat house, but then I completely stopped partying. I completely stopped drinking. I got real into fitness. And that's when I realized, I'm like, all I'm doing in college is partying, and I'm not really getting anything out of it. And I don't want to get a job. So like, what am I doing here? So after my sophomore year, I'm like, I'm going to start this auto detailing business in the summer, and then I'm going to slowly drop out and let my mom know I'm dropping out. She's like, what classes did you sign up for your classes yet? I'm like, no, I can't. I have an auto detailing business. I can't go back to college. Meanwhile, I'm making like $10 every 2 weeks for that business. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. I realized it was not my thing. Unless I was partying, I wasn't getting anything out of it.
What does your mom think of that? Like, my mom would have so when my little ordeal happened, she was pretty pissed. But if I told her, how does your mom react to that?
She was taken back at first, for sure. She was questioning herself as a parent as well. But I was so committed to it and so committed and convinced that I wasn't meant to go to school that I kind of let that energy out. And she picked up on that. And she's like, all right, fine, give it a try. Let's see what happens. And just kind of went from there. And now looking back, she'd be like, I can't believe I almost made you continue to go to school. Like, it's like laughable to think about that.
Yeah. And at least you were like, dude, this isn't for me. When I was there, I was trying to, I wanted to make my parents proud. And I wanted to do, because everyone else was going to college and stuff. And I knew it wasn't for me. Like, deep down, I knew it wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. But I tried to hang on to it as long as I could. And I should have just did what you did. Well, I shouldn't have even went, but I should have been like, I'm done and I'm out.
You're going into my freshman year. And my mom was like, what school do you want to go to? And I knew it wasn't for me. I'm like, I don't care, pick. So she picked the school that my sister was going to. So we ended up going to the same college. But yeah, it was an interesting journey. Definitely learned a lot about myself throughout that period of time and everything. So it was good. I got the partying out of my system too, my freshman year, and I'm good to go with that.
Yeah, same here. Same here. I quit drinking like, I don't know, 6 years ago or something. I don't do any partying anymore. I did plenty of that in my in those years. So I'm right there with you, dude. So then you got into the car detailing business. How long did you do that for?
Probably 6 months.
6 months.
The final draw was when I was trying to get into a dealership, and I thought that this was going to be my big thing. Getting into this dealership, this is going to be awesome. They had about 200 cars, and they said they were going to pay us $150. And I was talking to a mentor at the time. He's like, "What are you doing? Like, you're not going to be making any money with this." I'm like, "All right," and I don't like it at all. Let me stop doing this.
Yeah. Well, that's it's so interesting. I love asking that question to people because people talk about kind of their first thing that they did, but their very first entrepreneurial journey is always something, a little odd and a little different. And I love it, dude. So thanks for sharing that. So then you got into the gym training business. So were you selling courses and stuff online?
Yes, I was. And this was back in 2014. 2014. So I started personal training, and then I was learning from someone who had an online training business. Started getting coached by them, and I started doing that. So for a period of time, I was selling the online courses, and that's what I was doing, selling training, doing like one-on-one online and stuff, different things of that sort as well. That lasted about a year, because while I was doing that, I then started talking about mindset and like how powerful that's been affecting me. And then people started asking me how I'm doing the things that I'm doing. And I started like, quote unquote, manifesting things and saying, I'm going to do this, and then doing it. People were just watching that happen. So that naturally caused me to create a course on mindset in like 2015. And then that started to grow, and I continued to do that for a good period of time.
Got it. And then, so how did you get into the crazy trailer park world and mobile home?
Trailer park world. I was at an event, and I was on the left-hand side of me we left the event. I was connected with someone who was very successful. And he was just so happened to be going to that same event. It was called CEO Space. I don't know if they do it anymore, but he was going there, and then he knew other people that were going there. So for the lunchtime, we left and we went to, ended up being the Rainforest Cafe, because that was the only thing that was open, and we were in Orlando.
Okay.
I had the owner to the right of that had the rights of Think and Grow Rich on the left-hand side of me, sitting down, and I had this guy who was a billionaire on the right-hand side of me. And we were all having a conversation talking about things. And then the billionaire gets off a phone and he goes, I was just talking to a broker. I'm selling my mobile home parks for $168 million. I'm like, what? Sparked my interest. I'm like, tell me more. Let me learn more.
Yeah.
And then from that point on, he just started guiding me. He's like, get into mobile homes first, grow your capital, understand the industry. And he just started walking me through that. And from that point on, I was hooked.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome, dude. And so when did you started looking for, I guess, deals? How did you start doing that?
Yeah. In 2017, I started looking for deals. So I read the book, Deals on Wheels by Lonnie Scruggs. So read that book. I got a sort of an understanding from it. And then I was just learning from, there was like one other person online at the time that was doing and talking about it. So I started learning from them, understanding their processes and what they were doing, talking to my mentor as well. And I just went out and hit the ground running. I started calling up mobile home parks, asking them if they had mobile homes available. I'm talking to the managers, asking them questions like if I'm capable of doing this in their park. Started putting out bandit signs, so all the mobile home parks that sounded like there would be a good idea down the street from them, and different things of that sort. Not in the park, because the managers would piss them off sticking my signs in the park. So down the street, started asking them if they had any deals. I then came across my first deal. Someone called me on a sign, but they wanted $45,000 for their mobile home. And I'm like, I was not going to be paying $45,000. I'm thinking like $5,000. So she called me and asked me if I was interested. I let her know that the most I can pay is $10,000. She laughed at me and said, no, thanks. She called me back a month later and asked me if my offer was still on the table. I said, yes. So then I went there and took a look at it. She was living in Florida at the time. This home was in New Jersey. She held it for a whole entire winter. Her mom passed it down to her. It wasn't even her home. She's paying lot rent every single month. So there was a lot of pains in there as well. And then I went there, I took a look at it, and I said, the best I can offer is $7,500, because there were certain things that needed to be done to it. She accepted my offer. I was like, wow, awesome. Okay. We go there, we turn on the water. Water starts shooting out from the bottom of the home. The neighbor comes running over. She's like, oh my God, last winter, my yard was all ice. There was water everywhere. I'm like, oh no. I'm like, this is my first home. I called back up the seller and I was like, the most I can do is $3,500. That's the most I can do. I don't know what's wrong with your home. You didn't tell me that the pipes were burst, anything of that sort. So then she said, okay. I was like, wow. It just went from $45,000 to $3,500.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I had no idea what was wrong with it. I got the maintenance guy to come down the street to check the pipe and see what was wrong with it. He twisted one thing, tightened something up. The pipes were good. And we were good to go. I was like, okay, perfect. $3,500 for this home.
Wow, dude, that's awesome. And so you bought it for $3,500.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do? Walk us through what you did after that.
Yeah. So this home was in incredible condition. There was a few things that needed to be done, and I thought that they were worse than they actually were, and they weren't. I had my contractor come out. I ended up in total with the lot rent. I believe the lot rent was $400 per month or $350 per month at that time. Mm-hmm. I ended up putting about $2,000 into it. I think like $2,200 into it. I was all in $5,700. I then decided to sell this on seller financing. I sold it on seller financing for $52,000 within 30 days. I collected a down payment of $7,000. So I'm already in the green. I'm all in 57. I collected a down payment of $7,000. I'm $1,300 in the green. And then they were making me payments of $652 per month for the next, I think it was like 78 months. So that was my first deal. I'm like, this is golden. The return on this is incredible. I'm receiving pure passive income because I'm not the landlord at this point in time. I sold it on seller financing. I'm the bank. So they're just paying me every month. I have nothing to do with the home at all. Anything happens, I sold as is. And that was my first deal. And while I was working that deal, I got another deal, and we can get into that. But it was just became this snowball effect.
Dude, that's awesome, man. But yeah, because if you're selling them the home, then they're paying the lot rent.
Yeah, they're paying the lot rent as well.
Yeah, so they're paying the lot rent, and they're paying you $650 a month, and you're already in the green, and they own the house, so you don't have any. I like that, dude. I don't think I've ever maybe I've heard people talk about that before, but some of the investors that we've worked with in some of our parks, I don't think they do it like that. I think they maybe just buy and fix and flip, or I don't know. I don't think they do it like that, but that's smart.
Yeah. There's different methods. I flipped some of them. Some of them, if it makes sense. I just sold one last month or 2 months ago. I bought it for $12,000. I put in $25,000 worth of work. I was 37 all in, and I sold it for $127,000, $88,000 net profit. I'm like, all right, I'll take the cash for that one. I don't need to sell it.
Yeah.
Good.
So you took cash for that one.
That one was cash. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I love that. And that's interesting because that is truly passive income for you because you don't have to do anything at that point.
Yeah.
And you ever, so what happens when someone doesn't pay?
I have not had that at all. I've had make sure that I vet everyone correctly, make sure they're all vetted. The parks that I work in, they do a lot of vetting as well. One of the parks I'm working in, everyone over the age of 18 has to have a 650 credit score, which is like hard to find buyers a lot of times. I get cash offers. Yeah. And they're like, nope, they're getting denied, which is tough. But it also makes sure that I have quality people inside of my homes.
Yeah. No. And that is super, super important because I personally had to learn this the hard way because when we were buying these, shitty parks with all park owned homes with a bunch of vacant homes, we were trying to sell them to people to come and fix them up fast. Mm-hmm. And so we were a little less stringent on our background checks and ended up getting some wankers in there that actually caused more trouble down the road. And so now we have a very stringent background check process. And yes, you have someone coming in that wants to buy a house quickly and it's like nice, but at the same time, you really need to make sure that you get good people in there because it's less problems.
For sure. I say always, I would rather hold on to a home for a few extra months than sell to someone who I'm questionable about.
Yeah. I was actually reading the Owl of Charlie Munger, mm-hmm. and he talks about that, how he changed like Berkshire Hathaway's investment thesis. But he was talking about, if you buy A+ companies and hire A+ people, like you have less problems. And I'm like, he's like, yes, it may take longer and it may not be the best deal up front, but in the long run, you're going to have less problems. And so I think that's totally true.
And that's always the biggest challenge. Like, it's so easy, even as a business owner, it's like, let me hire someone who's not A plus because of the expense, because of the cost of them. But how much is it going to make you? How much are they actually going to be making you? And how much are you going to be able to grow by having that A plus player instead of having to look over someone or deal with headaches? And it's so true. And it's something that I'm continuously learning as well and stepping into, is hire the best that you can possibly hire versus hiring someone just to save some money every single month.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard, dude.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
you like you're a business owner and you're like, shit, dude, do I hire this person for 35 grand or I really like this person at 60, right? It's a big decision, right? And it's not an easy decision to make. And we went through exactly what you just said. Like we were like, okay, these parks are a disaster. They're not making any money in the first 6 months because they're deep value ads. And we're hiring these cheap people to like manage these deep value add projects along with me. And it ends up causing more problems in the long run. And it's just difficult to go through that thought process.
No, I 100% agree. It's always a challenge. Work in progress with that.
Yeah. And it's always like too, when you're growing a business and you need to make that next hire, whether you got to pay them 60, 70, 80, 100 grand, but you're like, damn, dude, like there's always some apprehension to doing it. But after you do it, you're like, okay, I'm good.
I'm so thankful. Because it's always like, where can I want to save money, but then it's also like, okay, I'm a business owner. Let me focus on making money versus just saving money. And I feel like when you step into that mindset of how much money can this person make me, and you look at it from that viewpoint and that standpoint, it's like, okay, they make more sense. Can they make me more money, or can they make me more money? This person can, even though it's going to cost a little more. What's the return that I can get on that? And like, you hire someone, one thing that I learned is like, when you hire someone and it hit home, I'm like, if you're paying them, they have a yearly salary, yearly pay, and you kind of go, okay, I'm going to be paying this guy $60,000 a year, for example. Like, they're not held into this year contract. If they're not making you money after 5 months, 6 months, depending on what their position is, even I guess 5 months would be the best parameter. It's like, you don't have to keep them on board. You can release them if they're not doing their job. Yeah.
Right. So do you have any staff that works for you in this particular business now? Do you have like an assistant or something?
So I have this side of things, and I have the online side of things where we help people buy and flip mobile homes. So for that side of things, yes, I have more of a staff there. For this, I have contractors. I have someone who goes out, sources the deals for me and everything of that sort. So yeah, I have a team on both spectrums of it. I'm not doing all the work for everything. So to answer your question, on both sides of things, I do have team and staff doing stuff for me.
Got it. And so you have someone, I guess it's calling park owners like myself or managers of parks and seeing if there's any houses that they took back from a tenant, or what's kind of your ideal thing that you're looking for?
Yeah. So I have someone, when it comes to the ideal thing I'm looking for, we have a couple different sources that we tap into. Is park managers. They're the gold. When you can build good relationships with them, they'll hand you everything. They'll let you know who's being kicked out. They'll let you know who's thinking about selling. They'll let you know who's back on lot rent when you build the correct relationship with them. Like, they're gold, and they'll let you in and you're good to go. So park managers is definitely a huge source that we use to get our leads. Then it's like setting postcards, having bandit signs put up, different things of that sort. My main thing is like sourcing these off-market motivated sellers and kind of infiltrating a park, quote unquote, and being that go-to guy for each one of the communities that I'm in. So when someone thinks about selling, maybe someone passes away, the manager finds out, they let me know. Someone's thinking about selling, they let the manager know, they'll let me know. So building the relationships with the managers is what I found to be one of like the gold sources for getting leads brought your way and deals brought your way in this business.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, relationships, when we're looking for stuff, it's always key. How many houses do you have now, or how many have you done?
So right now we're working on 8 currently, like in this very moment. How many have I done overall? I don't know. And that's something I get that question asked all the time. And I'm like, I have to put it together and like look at and total it. I'm not sure how much, but I know right now in this moment, we're working on 8.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. Yeah. Cause I mean, if you've been doing it, like, when did you start doing this?
2017.
Yeah. So I'm sure it's hard to tell how many that you've actually done. So like, what's next for you? I know we were chatting and you were looking at purchasing a park. Is that kind of what the trajectory that you're trying to go?
For sure. Yeah. Getting into the parks is definitely a trajectory. I did put a pause on looking at parks for a while. Like I got into this industry in 2017, and obviously looking back, I'm like, I should have been looking at parks in 2017.
Oh my God, I wish I was.
Like crazy. I actually ended up going to boot camp, Frank and Dave's boot camp in 2017. And then I got deeper into the mobile home side of things. But if I took the trajectory and went to the parks in that time period, I don't know where I'd be with parks right now. But yes, that is the next phase. I have one park under contract, still working on that. We were going back and forth on that one. That's been a mess. And then sourcing other parks as well. Like I have someone else who calls the parks in a few different states and tries to get leads for that in order to get moving on that side of things. So the home is one thing, like it's great to have these homes. You're getting 6 to 7 years passive income, but the parks are the long-term play. Like that's that next step.
Right. So you're under contract with that park now.
Yeah. It's been,
how's that going?
So we were supposed to close April, and I'll go over the story here. I think it was like April, I don't know, 10th or something, let's say. We were supposed to close. We had our phase 1 done, but they took a while to get the reports back in. I look at my phone. I'm supposed to be driving. It was a 5-hour drive. So I was going to be leaving at 4 a.m. I think it was. I was going to be leaving my house at 4 a.m. I checked my phone and I was going through my text and then it's 12 a.m. going through my text. And I see a text from the person who did the phase 1. And they said, the park failed. We found contaminated soil. This is 12 a.m. I'm supposed to be going at 4 a.m. I'm like, what do I do? Like, this is my first park. I don't know how to handle this. No one's going to be answering my phone call at this point in time. So like, do I just drive down there and just buy the park? Like, what's going on here? Luckily, actually, Frank I texted him and he ended up calling me at that point in time. Like, this guy's incredible. So he called me and he's like, don't go down there, figure it all out the next day. So I sent messages to my partner who I was going to be buying the deal with, and then them, and it was all, we were figuring everything out. They were saying that it passed DEP in 2000, I think it was like 13 or 14 or 15 or something, an oil tank leaked everywhere, got deep into the soil and everything.
Oh boy.
So yeah, so that was the issue there. They then said it was all cleaned up and it was all good to go, but apparently it's not, because we had someone test the soil and it came up contaminated. So we've been going back and forth on this, negotiating with them. Very hard to get in contact with. They made us go through their attorneys the entire time. So our attorney bills are just getting higher and higher. They wouldn't talk to us. We couldn't talk to their attorney. Our attorney had to talk to their attorney, which has just been a pain. And that's been a huge cost right there as well. So we're still negotiating with them, still going back and forth and seeing what happens here. Like, I'm not sold on the deal. So at this point in time, I'm like, we're either getting some type of payment back from them for everything that they had, and this wasn't clear in the contracts and whatnot, or we buy the park at a discounted price point. I chopped off like $100,000 off the price what we're looking for. Yeah. And they're just very unresponsive, but they're still responding. So we're going back and forth at this point in time, seeing where we're at. And again, at first, this consumed a lot of my energy. Park-wise, I'm like, okay, let me just focus on this park because our money's tied into it, everything of that sort. So I stopped sourcing other parks and doing the lead generation for that. But at this point in time, I'm like, let's continue our lead generation. If this happens, it happens. If not, let's get the things in play in order to protect ourselves, get our money back, or whatever that looks like. Yeah.
I think it's important to act, you're out there in the game, you're putting in offers on stuff, and now, the market's a little weird, but you had something under contract, and, although the phase 1 came back dirty, like, I don't know, man, that scares me a little bit. I've never had that happen, but is there some kind of solution to that?
I mean, we were going to get a phase 2 done. They were kind of apprehensive about that, which was interesting. They actually wanted us to close within like 20 days of getting, like, it was weird. And it seems like they knew about a lot of things and they were trying to hide a lot of stuff. So yeah. I think the best solution would be to get a phase 2, which we're trying to work on here, get a phase 2, see what the issues actually are and how deep it goes. Cause it is under one of the trailers. So like that trailer would have to be removed. And I don't know what the extent of it would be. Our phase 1 person was saying it could be from $15,000 to $120,000. So like, it's not worth it if it's going to cost us $120,000.
Yeah.
So we've just been going back and forth on it, trying to figure it out. It's been a long journey on this one.
Yeah. I me personally, I would probably just say peace out to that one. It's funny, and you bring up a good point here to make to our listeners. If you have a seller and they're trying to rush you through due diligence and trying to get you to close so fast, I had this happen, and we're paying for it drastically. Seller, we wanted this park. It was 2 parks. It was right by a bunch of other stuff that we had. And he's like, you need to do 15 days due diligence. And I'm like, no, And he's like, I did it in 5 days when I bought it in, 1965 or whatever it was. You guys can do it in 15. I'm like, well, that's not really how this works. But I'm like, damn, I really want these deals. And so my hunger for the deal, I caved, and I'm like, all right, screw it. We're going to sign the contract. We're going to get it. These deals are going to be good. Now, we bought these deals for 4.2 million. They reappraised 8 months later for 11. It's another story to tell you how that went. But the septics at this park were a effing disaster. And so now we're going to be, 750 grand to tie in the city sewer. We crushed it on the deal, so it really doesn't matter. But if we hadn't, that kind of stuff can be catastrophic, and I would not do that again.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, because I almost made that mistake. If I didn't have, I ended up partnering with someone on this deal who had experience, owns a few other parks. Like, if I didn't have him partnered up with, I definitely would have pulled the trigger on this deal, because I was hungry. I'm like, I want this first deal. I want this mobile home park. I would have done it, and then it would have ended up coming back at me a couple of years down the road, probably. And then I would have been like, shit, what do I do now?
Yeah.
But it sounds like your deal was well worth it. So
it was definitely worth it. Well, yes, it was worth it, but it's still, it's been a headache for sure in the last couple of years, for sure.
So how did it come back appraised at 11?
What's that?
You bought it for 4 and it came back appraised at 11?
4. Yeah. So it was 2 parks. I'll tell you the story. So it was 2 parks. It was 105 units. It was probably in total 40% vacant. Okay. One of the parks, there was like no one living in it, but the one with the septic issues was basically full. It was all park owned homes, and they were all paying park owned home rent. And so we went in and said, hey, your rent's lower, but now you own the home if you want to buy it. We just gave them the homes. Mm-hmm. And so we pegged the lot rent at market lot rent, which is $800 in this market. And then the other park, we just sold off all the vacant homes, brought them up to market lot rent. And the same thing with the other park owned homes. We just transferred them over. So do the math. And it reappraised we refinanced at a 5.25 or 5.5 cap. So 800. Yeah. Do the math. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And we flipped all that over relatively fast. And look, the deal went way better than we ever could have dreamed it went. We thought we were going to double the value of it. But with that being said, the one park has been pretty much a headache. So yes, those deals are harder to find now.
For sure.
Yeah.
I've noticed.
So what were you going to say?
I said, I've noticed they're definitely harder to find.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think about that too. And I'm like, damn, some of these purchase prices look crazy, but like, so your example, like, man, I wish I would have been buying parks in 2017. In 2027, are you going to be like, shit, man, I should have been buying parks in 2023?
I'm sure. And that's the beauty of this. It's like, be present in the moment and take the action now. What's this? The best time to take action is now. It's like the best time was yesterday, but the second best time is right now.
Yeah, exactly. And why do you think, like, I see, people, I kind of used to be this guy too. Like, people, they can't move to take action. Like, there's a lot of people out there that, like, man, they're like, Derek, George, I'd love to do what you guys do, but I don't know where to start. Like, what would you tell somebody?
Yeah, focus. Because I feel it's so easy to get caught up in so many other things, whether it's like, now this business, or just spending the time that you can be spending on a business, scrolling on social media. And like, people waste so much time nowadays. It's insane. And there's so many different outlets to waste your time. And I think that's one of the biggest problems is people want things, but they're not committed to anything, and they don't have the focus required. They're not like, okay, I'm going to go all in on this. Maybe it's 90 days. Let's go all in for 90 days and see what happens. Just try it out. See what happens. People aren't willing to do that. They're willing to say, that looks awesome. I'm interested in it. And then go, but what else can I be interested in? Or I'm not more interested in this than my TikTok feed right now. Let me keep scrolling through TikTok. So, and that's why I think like this game of business is so easy, because so many people are so distracted. If you can just be one of those that I would say the 1% or 0.5% that aren't distracted, it makes things so much simpler.
Yeah, totally. Because you're right. I mean, there's so many distractions out there. And if people are still crazy enough to even watch the news, it's even worse. I mean, there's even more shit out there that just keeps distracting people and it keeps people from taking action.
Yeah. There's so many reasons why not to do it.
What's that?
So there's so many reasons why they shouldn't do it. And there's so many reasons or results, and people use the reasons and they justify their excuses. And then just tying back to people aren't willing to invest as well. They're not willing to invest to learn. It's scary. They're not committed. So they're not willing to make those investments. And because they're not willing to invest and learn from people who have done it before them, they try it on their own. It doesn't work right away. They go through all this trial and error and they end up giving up.
Yeah, for sure. How important is, since you brought that up, how important is a personal development and investing in yourself?
So important. I mean, I credit that anything. I would be not even a quarter of the version I am if I haven't allowed myself to invest in personal development, to invest in business coaches. Without that investment, one of the quotes that I love is, trial takes time and error can be deadly. And that's what people are doing. Trial and error. Learn from others that have done it. Learn about yourself. Do the personal development so you can learn about yourself. You can understand yourself. You can develop your mind. You can develop who you are. That's your foundation. That's what everything is based on. Then once you have that set up, let's learn from it. I want to do this specific business. Let's invest and learn from this person who's in this business. Let's understand what to do. Let's understand what not to do. Let's speed up my trajectory, time travel on your journey, speed up my trajectory. And as soon as you do that, where do you end up? A lot further than you would have ended up if you tried it on your own. And most of the time, if you try it on your own, you're going to end up getting nowhere. So it's such an interesting thing. And I feel like that's such a cheat code that so many people know, but so many people are scared of, to invest in yourself, invest in the knowledge, invest in others that have done it before you.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just crazy to me. You got the guy who's like, oh my God, I want to do this. I want to become 100 millionaire, a billionaire. Okay, well, why don't you pay $5,000 for this course? Oh no, I can't do that, dude.
I can't do that. I'll call you back. I have to think about it. All right.
No, I can't do that. I can't do that. I'm like, all right, whatever. How much money have you spent on personal development? Just a guess.
A guess. Definitely, I would say well over $200,000. Probably between $300 and $500, somewhere in that range.
Yeah. Same here, dude. I have no qualms about spending money on a program. I've even read stupid books and taken programs that weren't that great, but I got one thing that was worth, the $2,000 or whatever. Right. For me, it just takes, one piece of information can literally alter the way you think about things, or just gives you another aspect of looking at things that you maybe weren't looking at before. And I honestly think that when you sort of go and say, hey, I'm committed, I'm going to spend $5,000 or I'm going to spend $10,000, something happens. Something happens at that point, and things, I don't know what it is, but I think things start going in your favor after you're willing to, have the confidence to bet on you.
For sure. The amount of, you create a whole new level of belief in yourself. Cause like you just said, you're betting on you. So the action that you take, the way you start to look at things, what your reticular activating system is now looking for, it's looking for success now. Instead of, if you don't make that commitment, it's like you're programming yourself and telling yourself you're going to fail. So it's looking for failure. Instead, let's look for success. Boom. Beautiful. Now I can implement this and implement this. And all these opportunities for whatever it is that we want to do, they're all in front of us right now. We're just so closed off to it. We're just so blinded to it because we're not making the investments, because our mind isn't programmed that way, because we're focused on all these distractions. But everything is literally right here. Start to take action on it. Start to learn from someone. Make the commitments to yourself and watch as so the universe just bends in your favor when you commit to yourself and you make these investments in yourself.
Yeah. No, that's true. I totally believe in that too. When you actually put it out there, things do start to move in your favor and in your direction. So I forgot to ask you when we were talking about mobile home parks, what's the craziest story or the craziest thing that you've walked into in some of these things or seen? I'd love to hear it if you've got some. Yeah,
I would say, it was just a really, really, really dirty house. When I'm talking about dirty, just food everywhere, and someone lived there. The ceiling was collapsed. You can see the sky. I'm like, do you not have water coming in? And he did. There was just piles of garbage where the water was just being collected on top of. But I literally I was probably the ceiling, it was probably a 5-foot gap between the ceiling and the floor because all the crap that was on the floor. So just walking through everything, it was just disgusting. And it was atrocious. That was probably the dirtiest house I've ever seen, the nastiest house I've ever seen, the most unkept house. And at that point, it was like, even in that moment, I'm like, all right, do I want to keep doing this? Like, is this how all the homes are going to look? But obviously it's not how all the homes look. That was probably the worst thing I've seen. Other than that, there's nothing been too crazy that I've seen. That's probably just been like a lot of dirty houses I've walked into.
Yeah.
Mobile homes.
Yeah, I've been in those too. Wait till you when you get your park there, man, you're about, oh, Derek, I got some stories for you now, bro.
Oh, I'm sure. I've heard a lot of stories from park owners. I'm sure there's a lot of crazy things that you experience.
Oh my gosh, dude. Like some of the stuff, like you just couldn't even like, in a dream state, you couldn't even come up with it. Like,
yeah, I've heard some things from the park managers that I'm working with. Like you hear a lot of crazy stories about different tenants and stuff. And I'm like, I don't experience much of that yet because I don't own the parks and oversee everyone inside of a park or see that or get the answers. I have just everyone inside the park, but I'm sure there's a lot of crazy things that you see.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it right, dude, because you've got, like, I know some of these, these investors, they come in and they rent the house to somebody or they got to fix it, but you're doing it right, dude. I'm like, why wouldn't anybody do that? Because that's better for the park owner because, a lot of park owners, they don't like it if someone is subleasing their house. But this way is better because it's, it's essentially a tenant-owned home and it's the person's responsibility and you're not even involved with the park at all, really.
Yeah. And that's another reason why I don't get defaults is because these people are committed. They don't have a renter's mentality. They have the buyer's mentality. They put down a sizable down payment. So like they have this higher level of commitment now to the home. They know that they're paying off the home to be theirs, which is why now if I was renting out these homes, I'm sure I'd have a lot of defaults, but they're buyers. This is their home. This is their quote unquote last resort. They're like, this is what I'm going to make my home. I don't want to live in an apartment anymore. I'm not I can't afford a single family home, different things of that sort. This is my place. I'm putting down this down payment. So we make sure everyone who's buying is committed as well. And that's another reason why I don't get defaults because they're committed to it. They're owning it. This is their place.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude. And so before we got on the call here, where you're about to go to Greece?
I'm going to Greece. Yes. I'm leaving in about an hour and 15 minutes.
Nice. So
my flight is an hour. I'm leaving to go to the airport in an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay. I was about to say, you might need to get your ass going.
Flight.
So how long are you staying in Greece?
I'll be there for a month. I just got back from Monaco a couple of weeks ago. I was there for 3 weeks. South of France, and now I'm going to Greece today, and I'll be there until September, for a month. So I'll be there for a month and a couple of days. My girlfriend loves to travel, and it's great because doing these things as well, tying back to business, it's like, okay, I have to delegate these things. I have to outsource these things. And at first I was very apprehensive to it because I'm like, I can't run my business. I can't do these things. But you can. You just figure out a different way to do it. And then when I come back, it's like, awesome. I already have these team members in play. I don't have to deal with this. I don't have to deal with that because it became a necessity when I was traveling to hire these things out.
Right. I need to travel more, man. I'm like, we have 2 kids, whatever. It doesn't matter. We can still travel with 2 kids, but I need to travel more, dude. For whatever reason, I get wrapped up and I'm hunting deals and we've got, shit and stuff going on. And I'm like, okay, we've taken a trip this year, but I need to go on a month trip and I need to come back and then go on another month trip.
For sure. I agree. I mean, if my girlfriend didn't push me to do it, I'd just be here hunting deals as well. But it just expands you so much. And it's so powerful. It expands you from the people that you are able to connect with depending on where you go. And as I mentioned, like building your business in ways that you don't have to be there to get the deals done and to make the deals happen.
Yeah, dude, I love that. Well, where can people find you? I know George, he probably posts just as much as I do. So if you follow him, he's going to be in your feed and in your face every day like I am. So where can people find you? So
Instagram, George Wohar, the number 4. I'm the 4th. And then mobilehomesuccess.com. We have a couple different trainings. I mean, mobilehomesuccess.com/training is where we have one of our training videos, just going over the business model, breakdown of how we do seller financing, how we sell deals for all cash, how we find the deals. So a whole breakdown of that is on there as well. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely jump on over to that site. Awesome. Well, George, we appreciate you coming on the show today. And that's it, guys, for the MHP show. We will be live
Well, not live yet. We're working on that, but we'll be every week, every Monday, the episode will come up. So we'll see you next week. Peace.